there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Am I the jerk for not donating any of my hair? After that, I got fired over a dime, but oh, did I get revenge. And after that, am I the jerk for milking my golden grandchild status to help my family? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to donate her hair. But that's the source of my power. So please smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Am I the jerk for not donating any of my hair? I, 19 female, have a little over 3 feet of hair. It's naturally on the thin side, but I've been good about taking care of it, so there's no breakage or heat damage. People ask about it occasionally, but usually they're just curious how/why I've grown it so long. To answer, in case anyone is curious, I don't rinse out the conditioner all the way, and I manually detangle every knot instead of ripping through them with a brush, and I just like having long hair. It's not religion related or anything. I do have one person in my life though, who I'll call R, 20 female. She has a much younger sister, E, who's 8, who has alopecia and is very insecure about being bald. Their family doesn't have much money and can't afford a wig that E can wear, since she also has allergies to one of the main ingredients in synthetic wigs. R told me about this a week ago, and she contacted a wig making place who said they could provide a big discount if the family could provide the hair themselves. She asked me to donate my hair, and I said no. She wasn't initially upset and didn't press me at first. I don't think she expected me to say yes right away, but she has become steadily more persistent over the past few days. She keeps calling me selfish, saying I wouldn't even miss it, and that I don't need it, since I'm not growing my hair for religious reasons. I absolutely would miss it, since they would need about 16 inches for a full wig because my hair is so thin. I also have psoriasis, so I'm a little irrationally attached to my long, pretty hair because my scalp is so gross. R asked again tonight, so I told her my reasons. She snapped. She told me that how much I love my hair should show me just how insecure E is without any hair at all, and that it would make it a really meaningful gift. I also found out tonight that she already told E I would be giving her my hair, so she said I'd be breaking E's heart if I went back on it now, even though, again, I never said yes. R just left furiously, and now I'm wondering if I'm wrong here. I'm pretty confident that what she did is a huge jerk move, so I'm not asking about that, but I can't really argue with her assertion that I don't need it. Is it selfish of me not to donate my hair when her sister doesn't have any? Update. I set up a time to call her parents and just talk to them, and wow, R was lying to me about a bunch of things. Luckily, she didn't actually tell E that I'd promised to donate my hair. She also failed to tell me that the family had contacted several other people and a couple of charity groups. Apparently, because she has a form of alopecia where her hair grows back and then falls out again, she's not eligible for a lot of the typical charity groups, but there are still some that might help. They've come into contact with plenty of people who are willing to donate hair, so mine isn't an issue anymore. I also got to talk to E, who tried to apologize for her sister after her parents asked her about all this, and I reassured her that R just loves her and is trying to take care of her. We chatted for a while, and she told me about how she's learning to crochet sweaters and she wants to be a herpetologist. I told her that although it might feel weird to be bald, she can do cool things that I can't with hair on my head, like henna. I sent her parents a couple pictures of henna on bald heads to show to her, and she's apparently really into the idea. So I told them I'd send a couple of tubes, since my roommates are Indian and have a bunch on hand that they're happy to give to E. R is an artist with some henna experience, and I know she'll do a great job. I really hope it helps E's self-esteem until they can get her a wig. A couple of people said that R probably just behaved this way she did out of concern for E. I agree. She's had some difficulty connecting with her in the past because of their age gap, and I think she really wanted to be the one to provide a solution to show E how much she cares. R doesn't usually behave like this, and I know she's under a lot of stress because she has a really heavy course load, but also had to get a job last month to help support her family. So looking back on it, I completely understand her lashing out. I texted her asking to talk later and explained I'd talked to her family about everything, and I hope she responds. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or is her friend the jerk? Please let us know. If a friend wants the hair for her sister so bad, why doesn't she grow it out herself? I got fired over a dime, but oh, did I get revenge. This happened years ago. My actual first job working for a pay, we got paid in cash. This is important later. Just a little background. My first job was working at a local drive-in. Yes, I'm that old. Anyway, anyone who has worked in a movie house knows how much work there is to do for an insanely short period of time, and then it just drops off. Same with a drive-in. Only the folks never stopped coming in, and at intermission it was chaotic. When our shift started, we had to make popcorn for the entrance. We sold boxes there, enough for the snack bar to use, boil the hot dogs and set up the french fries to drop and get the oil heated up for steak fingers, fries, tots, etc. So there was a lot of activity when we started. Our manager at the time was a 30-ish guy whose wife managed one of the other drive-ins close by. He was a tyrant. Had us come in on Sundays just to fix speakers without pay because in his words, we got paid for doing this job during the week. This drive-in was the only 2-screen drive-in in town. That meant on any given night, there would be 2 prime movies followed by a B movie on each screen, the kind you might use for other activities. At a drive-in, our work rotation consisted of cashier/ticket at the gate, sometimes 2 pair for a new release, and 5 to 6 working the snack bar. We all rotated jobs so everyone had a chance to work at the gate. Whoever was giving tickets had to wear a pair of white overalls, as dealing with a lot of cars, things could get messy. The ticket part of the job was to take the money from the driver, hand it to the cashier, and then give back whatever change they needed and tear the ticket in half to give them their half and put the sold half in a jar. That way, the money would be equal to the ticket sales. More on that after I finish this part of the story. Anyway, one night I was scheduled for ticket. Loved that part, as you'll find out. We were having a really good Friday night, about 200 cars with 3 to 4 people each. Prices were by the carload and $5 got you in. I also sold popcorn at the gates, so I had my own money-making bag and about 100 boxes of popcorn to sell at 50 cents a box. All well and good. We closed the gate when the opening feature started. The commercials, promos for future movies, cartoons, etc. We counted up our money, both from ticket sales and popcorn. The cashier counted her money and said, "I'm a dime short." "Are you sure?" I asked. I counted, and sure enough, she was a dime short somehow. I had made a bit extra in my count because some folks didn't want change back, so I had a few dollars more than the boxes of popcorn I sold, so I took a dime from my bag to make hers balance. We head back to the snack bar because we still had to help get ready for intermission. Yeah, remember I said we had 5 to 6 to work the snack bar? On weekends, it was usually 5 to 6 to work both sides of the snack bar, so it was going to be real busy for most of the evening. We get back to the snack bar, and immediately the manager, who has had a few, starts counting our bags. I mentioned that cashier was a dime short, and I gave her a dime from my bag to balance hers. I never got the chance to explain I had tip money. This is how the conversation went. "You're fired." "For a dime?" "Yes, if she was short, she would be fired and have to explain why." "But I had tip money, so I could balance her bag for the night." "Tip money should have come to me to distribute, not for you to use how you feel. You're fired." So I'm sort of glad I can get away from this job. During the summers, when we were out repairing the speakers, it got insanely hot and zero shade. We got no breaks for water or bathroom or got paid for the hours we put in. Okay, I'll leave and pick up my pay on Friday, and I started to walk out. "Wait, you have to finish up before you go." "No, I don't. You just fired me. I guess you'll have to help tonight." He never helped. In fact, we rarely saw him once the movie started, and on Friday/Saturday nights when we were really busy, he brought in female companions for the evenings and locked himself in the office. During the week, he would get drunk and pass out. Then we'd open the doors and enjoy the movie while getting ready for intermission. We'd close them right before because the tyrant wouldn't let us watch the movie even if we had nothing to do and was always hovering around at intermission. I felt bad for his wife. I had worked a couple of weeks for her since she was short-handed, and her and the tyrant were used to helping each other, so all the women that would show up on weekends were there as his entertainment. Anyway, I get in my car, find an empty spot, and watch the rest of the movies for the night, wondering about getting another job. I could have ranted about the dime and argued what I did was the right thing to do, but it would have fallen on deaf ears, and since the next payday was Friday, the owners would be in the main office counting cash and checking records for the 12 drive-ins in the city. I show up and knock on the door to be let in, as the office is locked all the time. I explain what happened and was there for my pay. The owner is a little upset that I did what I did with a dime, but that it wasn't worth firing me for, and I should have explained the tip money. I said I was never given the chance to tell my side. On another subject, Did you know that manager was bringing in people to hook up with on Fridays and not paying us for working on Sundays when we repaired speakers? They didn't know about the hookups, the drinking, or the fact he had turned in time for us working, but took the cash out of our pay and pocketed it. This is Friday night. I have to go to the movie tonight. I go alone and pick a spot near the door to the snack bar. About an hour into the movie, the manager arrives with 2 girls, and they look like they've already started to party, and they go in. 5 minutes after that, a sedan and a police car drive up to the door, and 2 men get out of the sedan. The owners with the police. Not 5 minutes after that, his wife drives up, mad as heck, stomps her way into the building. You could hear the screaming over the volume of the speaker for the movie. The door flies open. His friends are literally tossed into the yard. The police come out with the manager half dressed in cuffs, and the wife is getting him with a broom. It was a sight. I was told he was charged. His wife left him, took over managing most of the drive-ins for the owners, and folks had a good time. Everyone got back pay, including me, so it all worked out. Oh yeah, ticket sales at the gate. Since all of us who worked there were getting crapped on every day, we came up with a little scam of our own. Part of the ticket job was to tear the tickets in half and keep one half for the office, the other for the purchase jar. Well, what we did was tear the ticket in half, give the half to the driver, and then give the next guy the other half of the ticket. $5 to the cashier/ticket duo. Do that for an evening, and it was an extra $50 for the night. More than what we got paid for the week. We were all in on it, and since we were scheduled evenly, no one complained about it or felt left out. Manager got convicted for that too. Have you ever had a horrible boss? And if so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
I've had a horrible co-host, I can tell you that much.
Am I the jerk for milking my golden grandchild status to help my family? I know about narcissistic parents and all of that, but in this case, it's my grandmother who is the narc. She is very vain, very much a big Jesus fan, and is cheap as heck 50% of the time. I'm the favorite grandchild by a long shot. She doesn't like who my aunt married, the mom of my 2 cousins, and she also doesn't like my cousins' partners. My uncle, grandmother's son, never had children. Grandmother was completely unenthusiastic about her great-granddaughters from cousin A, Cassie, and barely enthusiastic about her great-grandson from cousin B, Laura. She hardly acknowledges any of them, makes disparaging remarks, and barely seems to give a hoot about any of them. Me, on the other hand, she'll give me almost anything, including access to her credit card and a bank account she hardly uses. She told me I could buy whatever I wanted as long as it wasn't illegal and it didn't clear out above a certain amount each month. Recently, Cassie's apartment suffered severe fire damage and Laura had her son this year. She wasn't inclined to help either of them, saying that the fire wasn't her fault and Laura could handle her own crap. Yet, she will donate to strangers and favorite family members. So, I used that same credit card and bank account. Cassie got a couple $100 towards the GoFundMe set up for her family and replacements for some of the things the girls lost. Laura got some sweet baby supplies. Grandmother found out recently though, and is hopping mad that I used her money to help them. The same money she told me that I could do whatever I wanted with. She's not threatening to cut me off, yet, but she's made her displeasure with me clear. She says I should have known better than to help them. I pointed out that she said I could do what I wanted. Am I the jerk here? Edit. 1. Why not use gift cards / give them cash / the gifts directly? We live in different countries. I had intended to go there myself on my own dime earlier this year, but this thing stopped me. 2. Why not use your own money? I kinda did as well. Say I gave Cassie $1,000. 500 of it was my money. I used grandmother's account to give them extra. 3. My relationship with grandmother? I love her, but despite everything she's done for me, she also has her foul moods against me as well. She doesn't like it when I call her out on it, but then after she gets it out of her system, it's back to being her usual self. I'm also her PA of sorts, driving, appointments, bills, sometimes with my money when she refuses to pay them, pet care, etc., plus my actual job. Cousins and aunts' relationship with grandmother? Cordial. They send messages, pictures, call occasionally, and visit when they can. She once got mad they couldn't come visit her because they couldn't afford it at the time. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their grandmother? Please let us know.
Nothing wrong with what OP's doing, except for getting caught.
Throw away expired stuff? Stuff that doesn't have dates? Alright. Back when I was in a culinary class, I could always tell my teacher didn't like me that much. She would never allow me to participate in after-school events and would make me do dishes or other chores instead. Not what I signed up for when I took the class, but fine. You want me to learn professional skills? I get it. But your job as a teacher is to give every student the experience of learning culinary skills in a culinary class. She would also tell my brother, one of her star students, that I was annoying and send me out on errands outside the class so she wouldn't have to see me. But anyway, one of these chores she wanted me to do was to go through the cabinets, refrigerators, and shelves to throw away anything expired. She also wanted me to throw away anything that didn't have a date on it, 'cause when in doubt, throw it out. So I did. But the problem is, none of the spices on the spice rack had any labels or dates on them, and all of them had varying levels of use. I'm not a complete jerk, so I didn't throw out all the spices. I just threw out the ones that seemed to have a good amount missing. That way, I knew the spices were somewhat old. I just threw out enough for my teacher to notice. She noticed pretty quickly, and she prompted me to stop, to which I reminded her that I was throwing out the spices that didn't have dates on them. That pure look of annoyance and defeat was satisfying to me, as she told me to sit down and that she'd have someone else do it right. So then I got to sit at the table and do nothing instead of doing chores that her golden students could do instead of smoking and skipping class. Maybe the reason they were staring at me throughout the ordeal was because I got a bit too close to a substance that was definitely basil. Now they had to dig through the trash to make sure I didn't get rid of any of that pretty pungent, expensive, important basil. Just kidding, I didn't know about any disguised substances on the spice rack, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, teacher mad, students mad, but they can't punish me because I did what I was told. And then the next semester, the class mysteriously disappeared from my schedule, which was very interesting to me. But I didn't care, because I wouldn't miss the days reaching down the sink as I was the only one in the class who had the courage to. I do feel bad for those kiddos I used to let sample some cookie dough if they were alone in the kitchen and vowed to tell nobody. But ironically, visiting the class revealed that after the incident, there were new spices, but they too were unlabeled. I call upon my successors to right what is wrong. If you can hear me, empty the spice racks and look for the mythical time. Am I the jerk for canceling Thanksgiving? I, 40 female, have hosted Thanksgiving for my family, husband, kids, mother, siblings, and their spouses for the last 20 years. There was never an issue until my brother met his now wife, Julie, 5 years ago. Julie is very big into diets, Atkins, keto, South Beach, and every year she sends me a list of foods that she cannot eat and a list of things that she can eat. Last year, I cooked her the exact keto foods that she wanted, and she was upset the entire meal because my brother didn't want to eat it with her, so they fought at the table. Last week, she sent me a text message that she is now on the fertility diet as they are starting IVF, and sent me another list of foods that she cannot eat and a planned menu for me to cook for her. I texted her back and told her that this year I was making one meal and one meal only, and she could either eat what was being served or bring her own food. She texted back and told me that I was being selfish and didn't care about her. My brother called me up the next day and asked if I was happy about ruining Thanksgiving and started to yell about how at their barbecue last summer they catered to my food allergies. I am deathly allergic to strawberries and have an EpiPen. I told my brother that this was not the same as a life-threatening food allergy, that this was a dietary choice and it changes every year. He called my mother, who told him that we all find it difficult to keep up with Julie's dietary needs and that if she wants special foods, she needs to bring them herself. Now my entire family is fighting with each other. My brother won't speak to me, and my sister-in-law is posting nasty things about me on Facebook. I talked to my husband about this, and he said this was ridiculous high school BS drama. He told me he would be fine canceling the whole meal and it just being our family. I agreed with him and sent everyone a text message. I told them that Thanksgiving at my house is canceled, that I am serving Thanksgiving menu. If they want to come over and eat with us, they are welcome to do so. My sister is thrilled that I finally said something about it. She hosts Christmas dinner and is also tired of cooking extra meals. My mom, however, is upset that we are all fighting and thinks that I shouldn't have canceled the meal. Now I'm starting to feel guilty, but my husband and my son say that I need to stand my ground and not give in to Julie and my brother. So, am I the jerk for canceling Thanksgiving? Well, who do you agree with? OP or her sister-in-law? Please let us know.
If her sister-in-law really acts like that, I wouldn't want her at my house at all, regardless of the food issues.
Entitled Aunt uses us as free babysitting. Let me start by saying this. I think if two people want to have a bunch of kids, that's great. I love kids. I want to teach elementary one day once everything calms down. I have issues with people who dump their kids on others and are just plain crappy people in general. I'm not related to this lady by blood, and I don't even call her aunt. She lives across from us, but used to live a few houses down with my uncle and their 4/5 kids. Out of all their kids, I like the oldest the most. Their oldest kid, Dee, is in 6th grade, and she's not treated great. She's constantly yelled at and blamed for things her siblings do because her mother can't be bothered to watch them. I honestly doubt Dee will stay in contact when she's old enough to move out because of how they treat her. The rest of my cousins, while I love them in small doses. Before all of this started, they would enter our house and property without permission and play with our things. I keep fish, and I had to hover over my tanks to make sure these kids don't bang on the glass and stress out my fish. I always hid in my room and refused to interact with these kids. I used to have to babysit them before my mom realized I didn't like doing that. So eventually, the cousins were told to leave me alone, especially after I developed a pretty short temper with them. I yelled at them to get out of my room, and eventually it became the only place in the house the cousins would not enter, and thus the place my siblings could hide things they didn't want my cousins touching or breaking. Bit of a jerk move, but whatever. My mom never stopped them because they were young, and also my aunt just didn't really give her much of a choice. She'd complain about how hot her kitchen got when she cooked, and that's why she couldn't cook. Never mind that in the summer, all the houses just got hot. We lived in the outskirts of the ghetto. These houses aren't gonna stay cool. My mom cooked for them because she felt sorry for them. My aunt would also ask us to watch her kids for a little bit and then leave for hours on end. We dealt with screaming 1-year-olds all day if we ventured outside my room, along with tantrums and just general stomping around our house. None of us are noisy, and we actually maintain a quiet house, so none of my siblings were happy, but these were our cousins. We're not allowed to complain. This lady also constantly gossiped, and eventually our other aunt stopped talking to her because of how much of a gossip she was. She also tried to treat me like her kids, which I didn't like. I did my best to respectfully and politely ignore her and quickly return to my room. She also compared Dee to me in a pretty bad way, acting like Dee wanting to not go to parties and stuff is a bad quality. When you have a big family, you just eventually stop wanting to engage. I told this to my mom and told her that the next time my aunt tried that, I would not be respectful. I thankfully moved out before that happened. She also showed up unannounced and ate our food and just took up a lot of my mom's attention and time. There would be times my mom would just politely listen to her for hours. We started locking our gate after that. Did I mention they had a dog they didn't take care of until I alerted the SPCA? Now for the real bit of entitlement. My aunt began working and she would leave her kids alone at home. Bear in mind, Dee is in 6th grade, and the youngest is a 2 to 3-year-old. They would be left alone for hours at a time. My mom brought up how this was very dangerous to my aunt. This was following me telling my mom I would report my aunt if she didn't find anyone to watch them. I had started work at an elementary school and just was generally done with my aunt's crap by that point. My aunt did not take kindly to her parenting being questioned. According to my mom, the conversation went like this. Mom, I don't like how you're leaving them alone. They're by themselves all day, and Dee is too young to be responsible for that many kids. She deserves to have time to be a kid and have fun. My aunt,
Well, I'm not the only one who leaves their kids alone.
this was in reference to my mom leaving us home alone prior to my being a legal adult. Except, my mom never left me in charge or home alone until after I turned 15 and was mature enough to be trusted. My mother pointed this out, and my aunt has stopped talking to her since. Her kids have not come over, and my siblings straight up celebrated. Eventually, my aunt got her brother to watch her kids while she was at work. We still lock our gate just in case. My siblings and I made an agreement to never pull this crap with each other. None of us want to be in charge of someone else's kids. The Beggar Bride. I was friends with a girl who was soon to be a bride. We had been friends for years, and when she got engaged, I was so happy for her. Due to being big in crafts and my love for crafting with epoxy resin, I offered to handcraft her centerpieces for free as a wedding gift. But as she was organizing her wedding, I became aware of just how much of her wedding she wanted everyone else to pay for. It started where she said she couldn't afford the bouquets, so my mom offered to make them. Then she complained that she couldn't afford the shoes she wanted. We were close friends, so I put some money aside and I gave it to her for the shoes. Shortly afterwards, she bought a rabbit and hutch, so I quizzed her about it and it was totally dismissed by her. A few weeks later, she comes to me and says she can't afford something else for the wedding. She's in a better financial position than me, and when I refused to give her money for it because I honestly couldn't afford it, she flipped out at me. It kept happening, and the more I refused to give her money or buy stuff for the wedding, the more she would flip out at me. Then, one day, she calls me out of the blue and is distraught because she can't afford something for her wedding. Again. And I told her I couldn't afford to pay for it and that my son needed new clothes. And she said to me,
"Your son can go without. This is my wedding."
My son is growing and was in need of new clothes. No way was I making him go without for her wedding. After that, it was her bachelorette, which she had a go at me for because I hadn't paid for the entire party. After all of the money I'd put into her wedding, there was no way in heck that I could afford her party as well, and I kept telling her this. I asked her if we could put off her party so that I'd be in a better financial position for it, but she refused, telling me to take the money out of my savings. I stopped hearing from her after that, and a few months later, she accuses me of being a terrible friend and said that she couldn't be friends with someone like me. We haven't spoken since, but I've put in about $50,000 to $1,000 into her wedding and bachelorette party because I wanted her to have an amazing day, and she kept saying she couldn't afford stuff. She hasn't spoken to me since, and honestly, I couldn't care less, but I thought I'd share this story. Being a shy and overly nice person meant that every time she said she couldn't afford something, I'd try to help until I started seeing that the money she could have been spending on her wedding, she was using to go on holiday or purchase pets or buy herself nice things she didn't need. When I stopped, she dropped me as a friend and told everyone I was a horrible friend that used her. I'm glad she's gone from my life though, as the stress she kept putting me under for her wedding was really starting to get to me, and there were even a few other things she did, non-wedding related, that really put me in a bad place. But her entire attitude was so entitled. Last I heard, she had someone making her wedding cake for free, had convinced one of her family members to buy her wedding dress, had someone make her bespoke shoes because she didn't like her old ones anymore, and had got them to do it for free, had arranged for someone else to pay for her makeup and hair, etc., and had someone else pay my mom the small fee, $50, which was a fraction of what the materials cost to make them all, for her flowers out of their own wedding budget. I've actually wondered what part of the wedding she's actually paying for by this point. Have you ever had someone try to use you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
I used to use people all the time, but ever since that Karen's retreat I went to, half the time I feel like a new person.
Entitled Mother owned an online store. A brief backstory. I own a company that specializes in various wedding services, and last year I decided to add gift boxes to the list of services we offer. You know, those ones that brides and grooms sometimes give their bridal parties the morning right before the ceremony? However, I didn't really want to do them myself, and therefore set out to find an affordable supplier that could put the boxes together and sell them through my company. Sound simple? Continue reading. So I came across a website that offered this service. Their products were slightly cheaper than many other suppliers, yet not so cheap that it looked suspicious. The turnaround time for their products on the website said 5 to 10 working days, which seemed fine to me. I wanted to see the quality of their products first, so I placed an order which included one of just about everything they were selling. As far as they knew, I was a groom buying things for my wedding. I got the invoice straight away, paid it, got an email back from the owner stating that my payment had been received and she'll let me know once my order has been dispatched. So far, so good. Now, I'll admit this was something I wanted to do, but it wasn't a massive priority in my life. Therefore, I didn't even notice when she missed the 10 working days cutoff time, nor did I notice when 20 working days had passed. I mean, every now and then I'd remember, tell myself to follow up, and then forget about it again. It was after more than a month had passed that I eventually remembered to follow up with her and was super polite, literally just asking if she perhaps had an update to when the order would be dispatched. It took her about 3 days to respond, asking if I could please forward her the proof of payment again. I did so. She took another day, replied that she vaguely remembers me, but asked that I please send the invoice again as she couldn't remember what I had ordered. I did so. Upon receiving the invoice, she said that the waiting period is 5 to 10 working days. When I pointed out that it was already more than 30, she said it wasn't her fault that she couldn't find my order. At this point, it felt almost pointless even arguing with her, as it was obvious I definitely would not be using her as my new supplier, but I had spent quite a bit of money on this, so I still wanted my product. Another 10 working days passed and no updates. I followed up again. This time she responded, saying that she had unfairly been forced to pay taxes and therefore didn't have money to order from her suppliers. I told her that was tough, but not really my problem. Cut to her switching over from emails to WhatsApp and the rest of her correspondence being mostly voice notes. Cue voice note number 1, where she yells at me and says that she's never dealt with anyone as impatient in her life, and she feels so sorry for my fiance. With weekends included, I had been waiting about 50 days, and the "that's not really my problem" was the only time I had been even slightly rude. I messaged her that was a slight overreaction. She voice noted back, paraphrased slightly as I no longer have the voice notes, but pretty close.
You have no idea what I've been through lately. My child has been in the hospital, and you think you're more important than he is? I can't believe people like you exist. You make me sick.
I was slightly taken aback by this. Now, I should mention, I had placed this order so long ago that I had actually forgotten what her business was called, and now I was quite curious to go look it up on Facebook. I asked her for a link to her Facebook page. She replied with another voice note.
That is so typical. Well, I have a business, and you have a business, yet you think I didn't Facebook stalk you? So if you write one word about me on Facebook, I will destroy you and your business. My lawyer is going to take you for everything you own.
I actually started laughing at that one, sending a voice note back and asking her to please tell me what she thought she could possibly sue me for. She voice noted again.
I am a single mother, and I'm sick. I've been in the hospital, and I don't have to take this from you. So go. Go review me on Facebook. Forget you. Forget you.
I said I would if she wanted me to, but I still couldn't remember the name of her business. She replied again.
I'm not going to tell you the name of my business so you can slander me. You're sick in the head.
I shrugged, went into my email, and quickly looked up the name of her business. I found her Facebook page quite easily. The reviews were actually quite good up until about a month before, where the general theme was basically that she wasn't delivering and screaming and cursing at clients. I thought about adding one, but it really wasn't my style. I messaged her again, telling her that I found her page, but if she'd please just either refund me or complete the order, then there would be no reason for me to write about this. She replied, calmly this time, that she appreciates my patience and she'll have the order ready for me to come collect in a week. I pointed out that I had paid extra for shipping, so I shouldn't have to come collect it, and she replied with that thumbs up emoticon that I detest so very much. So another week goes by, and again, nothing. I left it for another 4 days and then messaged her. She replied saying that the order is complete, but all the couriers are on strike, so she can't send it. This was a complete fabrication, as I work with couriers constantly and definitely would have known if there was a nationwide courier strike. However, I wanted to get this over with, so I replied and told her that I'll just come collect it myself then. She replied asking when. I said I could come the next day. She replied saying that was impossible as her father had passed the night before and they were in mourning. I hate it when people do that because yes, it's obviously a lie, but on that 1% chance that it isn't. I replied I'm sorry for her loss and I'll contact her again on Monday. Monday comes, I contact her again and ask when I can come collect. She says Wednesday. I say cool. Wednesday morning I message her and ask what time, and she replies that today isn't convenient. I reply back that this isn't going to take time. I will drive up to her gate, she can hand me this package and I'll be on my way. She replied, voice note again. No offense, but after the way you have treated me, I don't feel safe being alone when you come, and I need my husband to be here. I laughed again, replying that I thought she said she was a single mother. Cue her phoning me and screaming at me. I actually don't recall what she said, but somewhere in between it was decided that I could come the next day. The next day I message her to ask a time. She says she won't be available, but she'll personally be bringing the order to me the next day. I reply, sure, whatever. The next morning I message her what time I can expect her. She says she has to collect her kids from school at 1 p.m., so she'll come after that. I point out that I very strongly suggest she comes before that because the afternoon traffic on the highway is going to be insane on a Friday. She replies that she doesn't mind the traffic and her customers always come first. At 12:30, she messages me that she's on her way to collect her kids and she'll come straight after. I was truly shocked, thinking that this was finally almost over. Cut forward to 4 p.m. and nothing. I message her to ask her how far she is. She replies that the afternoon traffic was too much and I was being unreasonable, expecting her to come deliver it in traffic like that. I replied, fine, so when are you going to deliver it? She replied that she'll come the next day. I replied that I wouldn't be home, but gave her my then girlfriend's number and told her to simply call her when she's on her way. I came home the next evening, and of course, she hadn't come. I messaged her the Monday asking what had happened. She replied that they had guests all weekend and she didn't have the time. Hearing this, I told her that I really did not want her product anymore and that I would really appreciate a refund. Cue another voice note, paraphrased again.
Forget you, you grunt. I have gone out of my way for you, and now you want a refund? No, no, no! You will not get a refund. Forget you. My child was in the hospital all weekend, and I don't have time to deal with your garbage above that. Forget you! I hope your business goes bankrupt, you grunt.
At this point, I was done dealing with her and said, "Fine, you win. Keep the money and go well." She replied that she's not a criminal and she's bringing my stuff through right now, because how dare I treat her like she's a criminal, and she always puts her clients first. I replied that I really didn't want it anymore and she could save herself the trip. She replied that she's on her way, and I blocked her. About a month later, I was entering my security complex when the security guard said he had received a delivery for me. I wasn't expecting anything, so had no idea what it was. Imagine my surprise when I saw that she had actually come to deliver the product, even though half the groom items said bride and half the bride items said groom. The next day, I got an email from her asking me to please review her business. I didn't, but her website and Facebook page have since been removed. I hope she's not doing business under a new name, because I feel for anyone that has to deal with her.
Please come watch this video next. You will love it. And become a channel member today, or join our Patreon, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video.